Welcome to the New Orleans Saints podcast, presented by Rouse's Markets. You'll hear from players, coaches, broadcasters, and writers that cover the NFL daily. The New Orleans Saints podcast starts right now. Here's your host, Erin Summers.
Welcome into the New Orleans Saints podcast. Erin Summers here. The Saints host the Bucs this Sunday, 3:05 on Fox. It's the first NFC South game for the Saints, second for the Bucs as they started the year versus the Falcons. They took a 23-20 win in that one. The Bucs are currently 5-2, but they're coming in off a 24-9 loss to Detroit on Monday night. We have a jam-packed podcast today. We'll go national with Fox play-by-play broadcaster Kenny Albert, who will be on hand calling the game in the Dome alongside Jonathan Vilma on Sunday. Then we get the lowdown on the Bucs from Scott Reynolds with the Pewter report. Get the details on this week's 50-50 raffle beneficiary next op from their director, Shelby Mounts. And then Austin Pasco catches up with the Saints High School Coach of the Week, Brian Glover, from Estroma High School. Buckle up, people, or kick back with a cup of coffee as we get you prepped for this weekend's matchup. Let's start it off with Kenny Albert. Kenny, thanks for joining me on the New Orleans Saints broadcast. It's going to be great having you on the Saints TV broadcast this weekend. How are you doing?
I'm great, Erin. How are you?
I am good. I am excited to have the team back in the Dome. It's always a good atmosphere. I mean, this year we're celebrating 50 years of the Superdome. You have any good memories or things that stand out about games you've called there?
I do. I've called so many games there through the years and always enjoy visiting New Orleans, working Saints games, calling games from the Dome. The biggest memory that stands out would probably have to be the playoff game against Arizona during the run to the Super Bowl. And I've talked about it a lot with my partner, Jonathan Vilma, because he was a big part of it. But, just to think back to how loud the Dome was, the energy in the building, and, the Saints had a terrific day that day. So that's probably the game that stands out among all others. Also attended a Super Bowl there when Brett Favre and the Green Bay Packers beat New England. I was in the stands for that one. So that's, certainly a lifetime memory having been at that Super Bowl. But through the years, this is year 32, which is hard to believe for me at Fox Sports. And back in the early days, in the mid to late 90s, I remember going out to the Saints facility and meeting with Coach Ditka when Mike Ditka was coaching the Saints, and then through the Jim Haslett years with Erin Summers at quarterback, and even working some games at Baton Rouge when the Saints, had to play some home games there. But during the Sean Payton, Drew Brees era, worked so many games there with Daryl Johnston and Tony Siragusa, Moose and Goose, and the Saints were on a run for about 7 or 8 years. So it was always fun to pick their brains, to watch them go at it at practice with the defense. And Vilma, fills us in on some of the stories about the competition Fridays when, Drew and the offense would go up against Vilma in the defense. And I've heard the anecdotes about, the race to get into the facility first. Jonathan Vilma would show up at 5 a.m. and Drew Brees would already be there. So Jonathan would get in at like 4:50 the next day. So, they were such hard workers, and I really enjoy hearing about those stories. But the playoff game against Arizona is certainly the one that stands out for sure. Also worked a couple of Sugar Bowls there. So the Saints involved, but the first one was Notre Dame LSU. So great memories of the city of New Orleans and the Dome.
Well, we're happy to have you back this weekend then, because, it sounds like you've had some good calls here. We're hoping for a Saints win. We're in a different era right now under new head coach Kellen Moore. They're building. There's a lot of young players on this team. What are some of the things that stand out to you about where the Saints are currently?
Well, this is our first time doing a Saints game this year, so certainly look forward to meeting with some of the coaches and players over the next couple of days. Obviously, when you look at the record, it's a rebuilding situation under a new head coach, like you said, and Kellen Moore with a young quarterback and Spencer Rattler. But these division games, no matter what the records are in the NFC South, whether it's Tampa Bay, the Saints, Atlanta, Carolina, I've worked a lot of NFC South games through the years, probably too many to count. You could throw away the records. They're all, tough physical battles, especially down in the Dome. We talked to Baker Mayfield about it yesterday. The word that he kept using was physical. when you play the Saints, when you play in an NFC South matchup on the road. So you really can throw out the records. And I know the Saints have had, some trouble putting up points this year, but, defensively, they have some, stars on that side of the ball as well. So, from a Tampa Bay Buccaneers standpoint, worked two of their games earlier, week one against Atlanta, week three against the Jets, and they won both of those games in the final seconds. They had those 3 wins to start the season. With time winding down, they're 5-2. They've played some tough opponents, and unfortunately for the Buccaneers, they lost Mike Evans, most likely for the rest of the regular season. So, really looking forward to it. It'll be like I said, a divisional matchup, tough physical game, loud in the dome. So, can't wait for 3 p.m. Central Time on Sunday.
Yeah. Since you have talked to the Bucks and have covered them a couple times already, what are some things that Saints fans should be aware of with that team? I mean, it starts with Baker Mayfield. Obviously, he's playing an elite level and has had a depleted offense to deal with the weapons there being injured and dealing with injuries in both receiving room and on the running backs.
Right. The injuries to Evans and Bucky Irving over the last several weeks. But Emeka Egbuka, their rookie wide receiver, has gotten off to an outstanding start, had some huge touchdown catches over the first couple of weeks, rookie out of Ohio State. And when you talk to Mayfield and some of the coaches, they say in the meeting room, he's asking all the right questions. He's like a 5-year veteran. It doesn't seem like a rookie to them. So, the tight end, Cade Otton, with Evans out, we might be seeing a little more of him, from what Jonathan Vilma and I have seen on film.
Mhm.
Defensively under head coach Todd Bowles, they've been in the same system for the last 6 or 7 years. So, whether it's Vita Vea up front, Levante David, one of the best linebackers in the league over the last decade plus, and they have some terrific DBs. So they have, stars at every level defensively and offensively. You mentioned Baker Mayfield, and he's a guy who, obviously has played for multiple teams now, started in Cleveland as a top draft pick and then went to Carolina and the Rams briefly, but he's really settled in Tampa Bay. Is one of the best quarterbacks, been one of the best quarterbacks in the league over the last 3 years. Aside from what he does on the field, with his legs and with his arm, it's just the energy, the enthusiasm, the confidence that he brings. And that seems to rub off on the whole Buccaneers team, not only the offense, but the defense as well.
You mentioned that Mayfield mentioned the physicality aspect in these games. What were some of the conversations you had? What are they keying in on about the Saints and focusing in on in this game particular to do on Sunday?
Yeah, not that much necessarily was shared about strategy. It was more sort of the big picture stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He always enjoys playing in these types of games, and that's certainly what they expect this Sunday as well.
When you look at the Saints and where they're at, have you covered a team that has been in this transitional period? And for the fan base, what should we be keeping in mind about going through this year and maybe, I don't want to say finding the silver linings in it, but knowing that this is something that they're building for success in the future?
Sure. We've seen a lot of teams in this situation, many going through it now. And, Kellen Moore had great success as a coordinator in the league as a young head coach. I remember calling a couple of games that he started at quarterback not that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I think patience is probably the key word. And, just, that the coaching staff, they're going to stick with it, stick with their plan, the front office. When you look at Mickey Loomis and his staff and the great success that they've had over the last 15 years, I think, as long as the fans are patient, they've gone through some of these periods before. You look at some of the up and down years before Sean Payton took over. So, we'll see what happens this Sunday. Still a ways to go this season, but the Saints certainly have a terrific plan moving forward.
Since it is the first time that you're getting to see the Saints this year, what are you looking forward to getting to know about them a little bit?
Yeah, I think looking forward to chatting with Kellen Moore, hearing about his philosophies and some of the things that he's brought to the other teams he's worked with now in New Orleans. We'll chat with Spencer Rattler and some of the other players. So, we usually do a pretty deep dive throughout the week, studying both teams. Like I said, we've had the Bucs twice already, so got off to a head start with them, but still sort of in the middle of the preparation as we speak, and we'll chat with some of the players and coaches over the next couple of days and kick it off on Sunday.
Yeah, be ready for the game. You are juggling many hats right now. So tell me, how do you do it? Because it's not just learning a new team, a new football team each week. You're doing multiple NHL games in there as well.
Right, had 3 NHL games this week: Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and um, certainly the level of preparation for an NFL game, the volume is a lot more than any other sport because, you could be seeing a team for the first time in week 8, like we are this week. The volume of players, I always go back and watch each team's previous game. A lot of reading and research during the week, preparing charts, going through statistics and other information that's provided. I have a checklist that I go through before every game and make sure to hit all those boxes each and every week. But during the hectic times, and you know what it's like covering multiple sports as well, Erin. But I try to get as much work as I can get done on planes, in hotels, in taxis, and Ubers, and I've been at it for a lot longer than you. Closing in on 35 years now in the business, so you kind of get into a rhythm, and as long as you're organized and I know you do it with your terrific work in multiple sports, and it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of work and travel involved, but there's nothing I'd really rather be doing. But as long as you're organized and kind of get ahead of things, you should be good to go.
Yeah. All right, you're coming to New Orleans. So do you have a place that you're wanting to eat? Do you kind of, I mean, you've been doing it for so long. Do you kind of have a list of every city you go to?
Yeah, there are multiple places in New Orleans. We usually have a terrific lunch on Saturday. I always, certainly have a bowl of gumbo, and I know some of the other folks on the crew are looking forward to the oysters, and I always enjoy a good shrimp po' boy as well. So, there are probably too many places to name, and we'll certainly check out a couple of them over the next couple of days. But, my go-to might be, like I said, a cup of gumbo and then a
Yeah.
shrimp po' boy.
Hey, it sounds pretty good. And it's actually kind of getting a little cooler around here. So it is getting into gumbo weather finally.
Good to hear.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Kenny. It was great catching up, and I look forward to seeing you on Sunday.
Thanks, Erin. Really appreciate it. We'll see you Sunday at the Dome.
Now let's bring in Scott Reynolds, who covers the Bucs, for the latest on our opponent. Scott, thank you so much for joining me on the New Orleans Saints podcast. It is great to have you, although this weekend you are an enemy. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But thank you for joining me. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. You and I can be friends, but on
Yes.
Sunday it's going to be different, right? The Buccaneers and Saints do not like each other. This is a rivalry that has really taken on a lot of different twists and turns over the years. No Mike Evans this week for the Bucs, out for the year probably, and of course no Marshawn Lattimore. Those guys were going at it for years in this division, and it's truly been an interesting changing of the guard because the Bucs, I've covered this team for 30 years. There was a large portion of those years where the Saints were on top and the Bucs were the cellar dwellers, and the Saints were the bully in this division. And now the tables have kind of turned a little bit, and these two teams have kind of flip-flopped positions probably over the last 4 years, right? When the Bucs have won this division, the Saints have ruled the division since then. So it's really been kind of a two-team clash here in the division. The Panthers have had flashes here and there, and same with the Falcons. Those teams have made Super Bowls but haven't won. Saints and the Bucs, only teams that have won a Super Bowl in this division. So a long rivalry that has been fraught with some tension, and I don't expect anything different despite the records on Sunday in New Orleans.
I do feel like there have been some very intense battles between these two teams, and I think Saints fans would definitely say Atlanta is their main rival.
Right.
But because of what you just alluded to, the competition level and what's at stake between these two teams, I think that does make them rivals as well
Yeah.
in a different type of way. How much, though, is where the Bucs are right now because of Baker Mayfield?
He is the engine of this offense and the heartbeat of this team. Where Baker goes, this team will follow. And he didn't play great on Monday night. Actually, he played poorly in Detroit. And a big reason why they lost that game and only scored 9 points. And he had played so well up until then. Nobody's perfect. No quarterback is going to have a fantastic game every single week. You're always going to have that over 17 games, you're going to have a stub your toe game here or there, even if you're an elite player. We've seen it with Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, etc. And let's hope for Tampa Bay's sake that that was Baker Mayfield's stub your toe game, and then he rebounds with a much better showing in New Orleans. But it's been very difficult in that building. The Buccaneers have had some success, certainly under Todd Bowles. It's weird that the Bucs have played better in New Orleans against the Saints, and the Saints have played better in Tampa Bay against the Buccaneers. It's been a very interesting role reversal, but Baker Mayfield has turned the ball over a lot in those games, including, I think, 3 interceptions last year. And the Saints actually had the lead in that game, I believe, at halftime before the score got completely out of whack. The Bucs defense took over in the second half, got some interceptions off of Spencer Rattler, ran the ball like crazy. Their backup running back, Sean Tucker, was the NFC Offensive Player of the Week for a 2-touchdown performance. He had over 100 yards rushing. Pretty much most of that was in the second half. But at the same time, Baker Mayfield has got to be on point in New Orleans for this team to really excel offensively and have the best chance of winning. And the Saints defense has been a thorn in Baker's side over the last couple of years.
Different defensive scheme for the Saints, but some of the same players with Cam Jordan, Chase Young, Carl Granderson. So the front is still threatening. When you look at the offense for the Bucs and what Baker's been able to do, though, without so many weapons offensively, because so many of the wide receivers have been hurt. And you alluded to the fact that Mike Evans is going to be out for the season, potentially with the collarbone and the concussion, but the collarbone is the main factor there. Who is available and who are those weapons that the Saints fans should be looking out for?
Yeah, well, he's not just deficient at the receiver position, because Chris Godwin's also going to be out too. But Emeka Egbuka, who's been a tremendous first-round pick for the Buccaneers, he'll play, and that's a good sign, because he's in that conversation right now for NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year. Tez Johnson is an emerging receiver. He's had touchdowns in back-to-back games. He was the 7th-round pick, so the Bucs kind of had 2 bookend wide receivers in the draft, and we're really fortunate to get Tez. Very small guy. I mean, he's 5'10", 160 pounds. But he's a feisty guy who, at that size, Aaron, you don't want to get hit, right? I mean, everybody on the field is at least 30 pounds heavier than you. Cornerbacks at 190 pounds have got 30 pounds on Tez Johnson. So he is an artful dodger in terms of eluding tackles, slipping them, making guys miss, because you have to be that way at that size. But he was a player that played a year at Oregon with Bo Nix, and then Dylan Gabriel the last 2 years. He's averaged 1,000 yards in those 2 seasons at Oregon as a receiver. Plus, he had 10 touchdowns in each of those seasons. So he is a point producer, and he and Sterling Shepard and Emeka Egbuka will have to be that receiving core going forward here. And they've won without Mike Evans. They beat the 49ers without him and Chris, and they also beat the Seattle Seahawks, even with Chris Godwin, who is not back to form yet after recovering from that ankle injury last year on Monday Night Football against the Ravens. So they'll have to kind of plow ahead with that. They're hoping to get some more bodies back after the bye week. Bucky Irving should be back. Right tackle Luke Edeke should be back. But right now, what's causing Baker Mayfield some problems is the running game has not been consistent, not nearly to the point that it was last year, because they're missing their right tackle Luke Edeke. Their right guard, Cody Mauch, is out for the year. They've had to reshuffle that offensive line a few times to start the season because they didn't have Tristan Wirfs for the first 3 games. So it's been a lot of moving parts offensively for first-year offensive coordinator Josh Grizzard to have to deal with. No Bucky Irving, no Mike, no Chris, no Tristan Wirfs to start the season. Now he's back, but now Luke Edeke's out. No Cody Mauch. So it has just been kind of a bit of a miracle that Baker Mayfield in this offense has been able to score what they've scored and be as effective as they are, because they're missing a lot of bodies right now.
Yeah, they definitely have been leaning in on the passing game. That's where the Bucs have excelled this season. 25 points per game, except for last week, obviously, with the 9 points against the Lions, but they have still been very productive. Defensively, break it down for me. It looks like they definitely put a lot of pressure on the quarterback up the middle for sure. sack numbers are up there, 20 sacks, 5 interceptions. Where are the weaknesses maybe that the Saints can maybe try to exploit?
Well, right now they don't have Hassan Reddick. He got injured on Monday night, and he was kind of that 1-2 punch with Yaya Diaby, the edge rushers, and they were having a good combination season together. Hassan Reddick just has that kind of gravitas, that veteran production, been there, done that, a Pro Bowler, etc. With Diaby, he's kind of an up-and-coming player that is in his third year, but without Hassan Reddick, you're going to see more double teams on Yaya Diaby. Can Anthony Nelson, a reserve, step up and be a starting caliber player? He's had several years in this system. He's just not that A or B level player. He's more of a C level player. So will the pass rush up front drop off when he's in there? Vita Vea is having a Pro Bowl season, but they don't have Kalijah Kancey, their other starting defensive lineman. So now the Bucs don't have the vehicle for that four-man pass rush that Todd Bowles wanted to implement this year to take some pressure off of the team having to blitz their linebackers and in the secondary. Tampa Bay only had 7 interceptions all of last year. And so Todd Bowles wanted to rush 4, drop 7 in coverage to help increase the chances of getting more takeaways through the air. And that's kind of worked a little bit this year, but now you're down to just 2 guys out of that original 4. Cancey's on IR. He's out for the year. Hassan Reddick will be out for multiple weeks. So it's just Diaby and Vita Vea. So the Saints' offensive line, the tackles are probably the strength. The guards, Cesar Ruiz and Trevor Penning inside, probably better run blockers than pass protectors. Can Vita Vea cause enough havoc up front that Todd Bowles doesn't have to do a lot of excessive blitzing? And I think the biggest thing, too, is Spencer Rattler's been using his legs a lot more and been more effective, almost like a little bit of a Baker Mayfield show, where he can pick up the yards necessary to convert third downs, to escape pressure. And it's not just scrambling left or right. It's finding those open rush lanes where teams don't maybe have that rush integrity up front, and he's just going straight ahead and getting some yards. So that's an area of concern for Todd Bowles. You don't want to, on 3rd and 7, send your blitzers at Spencer Rattler and miss, and then all of a sudden there's an escape route wide open in the middle of the field, and if you're in man coverage because you're blitzing, then all of a sudden it's a 15-yard gain, and now the Saints have got another series of downs. So I think the biggest difference this year with Todd Bowles' defense, and the reason why they have more interceptions, is they've added more bodies to the secondary. They spent a 2nd and 3rd round draft picks on Benjamin Morrison and Jacob Parrish, 2 cornerbacks. Parrish is the starting nickel, and Benjamin Morrison's been splitting time with Jamel Dean on the outside at corner. So having more talent there has increased the depth and also the competition too. And so I think that, plus the addition of Hassan Reddick until this week, has been some of the reason why this Todd Bowles defense is better than it was last year. Last year, the offense had to wear the superhero cape every single week. Injuries and lack of talent just kind of diminished the unit. It's a different story now, where this is more of complementary football. Todd Bowles' defense is kind of stepping up to the plate and sharing the superhero cape on a weekly basis.
What about the third phase, special teams? It's been up and down for the Saints. Kicker Blake Grupe was nearly perfect, only missed 1 field goal all preseason, and now he's missing more than he's making. And it's been, I think, frustrating for some of the fans that expected him to not be an area of question. Yeah. Where is special teams at? Maybe even the return game for the Bucs?
Cam Johnson's a very good returner. He and Sean Tucker that's a nice 1-2 punch in terms of kick returns. They've had some success there. Cam Johnson actually won the NFC Special Teams Player of the Week award for a big return on a punt against the Texans on Monday Night Football back in week 2. So he's a dangerous return specialist on punts and kickoffs. The coverage units at times have been good for the Bucs, but then it almost seems like special teams has been like a whack-a-mole challenge for Thomas McGahee, the special teams coordinator, because you had Chase McLaughlin, who is literally a 90% plus field goal kicker, miss some kicks early in the season. And it was kind of maddening because the first 2 games were in dome stadiums in Atlanta and in Houston. and he suffered misses there. Then he had a blocked field goal against the Jets, which was returned for a touchdown. Riley Dixon has had 2 blocked punts. The punter, he's had blocks against the Texans and also against the Eagles. So, and that block punt was returned for a touchdown against Philadelphia early in the game. So it's been like trying to fix the field goal kicker. Okay, that's fixed. But now all of a sudden, kicks are getting blocked. Try to fix that. And then against Seattle, it was this team could not cover kicks. The Seahawks had multiple kicks that were returned out to around midfield. So it's been a challenge to try to plug all of the holes in the dike for special teams. And you hope that this unit has got everything figured out now, but it's kind of a cause for concern because it seems like at any given moment there's going to be a calamity on special teams because it's just been a different problem in different phases to start this season. Hopefully they have it fixed, but boy, was it a mess early on.
The Saints are due for a big special teams game because we have been struggling in that area. We have had a blocked field goal. Brian Brzee is very good at that.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, a return.
It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if it happened because, again, when you look at some of the depth problems on the offensive line, that translates into special teams, right? Because Cody Mauch and Luke Gedeke were starters, not just on the offensive line, but also starters on the field goal and extra point units. And then you have Luke Haggard come in, and he was the replacement guard for Cody Mauch. Now he's out with a shoulder injury. So you're having to not just plug in a new guard on offense, but also a new guard on special teams. And so it wouldn't surprise me a bit if we see New Orleans and Brian Brzee block a field goal just because they've had to reshuffle the personnel on offense, and that has had a chain reaction in showing up on the special teams units as well.
Being around the team this week, coming off of this loss Monday night, it was a huge game. I think a lot of people were watching because they were thinking that Detroit Bucks, they're top of the NFL in many ways this season. Coming out of that loss, what do you think the mindset is for this Bucks team going into this first division game for the Saints?
I think the good news is they had a loss earlier this season to the Philadelphia Eagles. That was a home loss. Then the next week they got on the plane and headed out west to Seattle and got a win against the Seahawks, a very good Seahawks team. So they've shown the ability to bounce back from a loss. So it's not like this was their first loss and this team doesn't know how to handle it. But what I will say about the Buccaneers is they've always kind of been counted out. They've always kind of been the underdog. And it's been a parallel situation for Baker Mayfield too, right? He's been the guy that you kind of love to hate because, you know, he's not as good as everybody thought he was. He was the Heisman Trophy winner going to Cleveland. He had some success there, but kind of flamed out, right? So he's got this big chip on his shoulder. The Bucs have a chip on their shoulder. They've won the division in each of the last 4 years. They're not mentioned in the national media like the Philadelphia Eagles, like the Dallas Cowboys, which are America's team, regardless of their record, right? The Packers, some of these storied franchises. And so I think it's kind of rubbed the Bucs the wrong way, and it's helped fuel them a little bit, the lack of respect. But there's a big difference, Erin, between being the hunter and being the hunted. And we saw last week leading up to that Monday night game. This was a big Monday night game. This is the Lions, who, in my opinion, still the best team in the NFC. And certainly Monday night proved that. They're not ready to relinquish NFC supremacy just yet. They're coming off a big loss on Sunday night at Kansas City, and they bowed up and they said, no, Bucs, not today. This is not your conference. It's still ours. And so I don't know if the Bucs handled the expectations that well, because everybody last week loved the Buccaneers. They were number one in the power rankings, and Baker Mayfield was the runaway choice for MVP. And it just, when you're the hunted, you get that bullseye in your back, and that's something the Lions have kind of dealt with now the last 2 years. They're more experienced at that. They were 15-2 last year, just ran out of healthy bodies in the playoffs, especially on defense. The year before, they went to the NFC Championship game as kind of that upstart team. And when you see teams being able to handle and manage those expectations of being the front runner, being the favorite, being the media darling, being the hunted, it's so different. Look at the Washington Commanders. They were the 12-5 media darlings last year, right? Went all the way to the NFC Championship game, very much like the Lions. But where are they now? They're 3-4, and they have not managed those expectations. They kind of assumed success because they had arrived, and it doesn't work that way in the NFL. And I credit Dan Campbell for, despite losing an offensive defensive coordinator, he's got the right locker room, he's got the right mentality where the Lions can handle that level of expectation. And so the Buccaneers kind of got knocked down a peg. We'll see how they respond this week. My guess is they're going to be pissed off. And having a feisty team, a nasty rivalry like the one with the Saints, I think will help them get over that Monday night loss and maybe right the ship heading into the bye week.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was assuming the answer was going to be, that they're going to be mad coming in here wanting to write last week's game.
Yeah.
Spencer Rattler had a tough game in their last outing for the Saints as well. Turnovers really crept up for him. He ended up with 4
Yeah.
on the day. So I know he's going to come in wanting to prove himself as well. So I think we're in for a really fun game as far as the quarterback battle
Yeah.
goes. Which kills me every time people say that, because they never actually go against each other, but
Right.
it is neither here nor there. What do you think this game is going to come down to?
I don't think it's going to be the blowout that it was last year in New Orleans. I just think that the game just kind of got out of whack. Again, it was very close. Those turnovers in the first half by Baker Mayfield, and some of those interceptions were a little fluky, bouncing off of people's hands and all that. But still, it gave the Saints life. And I think a couple things. Number one, the team that wins the turnover battle in this game is going to win. And the reason I say that, and I know that's a big, key indicator in a lot of these outcomes, right? But I think if you're a really good, talented team like the Buccaneers are, going up against a one-win team like the Saints, generally speaking, you could maybe lose the turnover battle 3-2 or 2-1 and still win based upon your talent and kind of the experience, the momentum you might have, right? You can probably get away with that against a lesser team like the Titans or the Saints or whatever. But in this game, with it being a rivalry game and the intensity is going to be ratcheted up, especially in the Superdome, I don't think that really can happen. I think if the Buccaneers do lose the turnover battle, they will lose this game. And so Baker Mayfield has got to do a better job of protecting the ball. The Saints have been very opportunistic, especially in New Orleans against Baker. He has got to, and he's done a pretty good job of this, got to limit the turnovers and probably avoid them altogether. If he can do that, I think Tampa Bay can win this game. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's close. The Saints, you have to give them credit under Kellen Moore, Brandon Staley. They've maybe had 2 kind of blowouts this year, but a lot of these games have been one-score games. And that shows me this team is not giving up. They still believe. They're still fighting, and of course, as every loss happens, that enthusiasm for showing up to work when you know that the season's over, at mid-season, and I've been there, trust me, the Buccaneers have had plenty of those years, it wanes, and then the blowouts are more susceptible. But right now, that's not the case, and they would love nothing more than to help derail the Bucs season, even if at, 2-6, it maybe not does a lot for the Saints. But it certainly would feel good to get a win, to help knock the Bucs down a peg, and to get that win over a division rival. So I'm expecting a close game. Maybe look at the stats and say otherwise, but I would not be surprised at all if this is a close win for the Buccaneers. But if they lose the turnover battle, this could be a close win for the Saints.
Yeah, I think that the team right now is very much like you said. They are still in it. They're seeing each week things that they're working on. They're making strides under new head coach, new defensive coordinator, new offensive coordinator. I mean, there's a lot of new on this team.
Yeah.
So they're definitely still in it. I know they're going to be up big for the Bucs being back home in the Dome and wanting to get a division game under their belt and a win. So we will see how it pans out.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. Are you going to be at the game?
I'm not coming to this one, unfortunately, but I'll be intently watching and covering the game, from my house and my home office here. So should be a good one. It always is in New Orleans. It's always a fun outcome. Certainly lately for the Todd Bowles Buccaneers, they're undefeated in New Orleans against the Saints since 2022. So we'll see if that continues. The Bucs they kind of are in desperate need of a win, even though they're 5-2 and they have a little bit of cushion. But the upstart Carolina Panthers are 4-3, right? And so Tampa Bay wants to maintain that lead. Now, Bryce Young is probably going to be out for the Panthers, but they want to maintain that lead and feel good about heading into next week's bye week. And a loss to the Saints and what should be a winnable game, I think would really kind of put a bad taste in their mouth heading into the bye week.
Yeah. See, I'm over here hoping that they're already looking at the bye week and they're just, not thinking, not focused on this Saints game. And hopefully we can pull one over on them before they go on their vacation for the week. But we'll see.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Scott. I really appreciate it. It was great, all the insight that you provided.
That was my pleasure, Erin. Thank you so much.
This week's 50/50 raffle beneficiary is Next Op. Executive Director Shelby Mounts is here to talk about the organization and how your support will help. Shelby, thanks so much for joining me on the New Orleans Saints podcast. It's great to have you. We are talking to all the beneficiaries of the 50/50 raffle that's coming up. So you guys are the next one, Next Ops. So welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me, Erin.
Can you just tell me a little bit about the organization and what Next Ops does?
Absolutely. So Next Op is now an 11-year-old 501c3 nonprofit, and our focus is on helping enlisted military and veterans in career transition. So we recruit them, we provide one-on-one coaching with them, on average about 8 hours. They're assigned a coach that's a peer of theirs. All of our coaches are called employment coordinators, and they have served in the military themselves. They're all prior enlisted. They've gone through the difficult transition from the military, not knowing exactly how their skills translate. And so it's a good way to build trust and partnership and figuring out what you want to do next, where you're a good fit, and get you connected to those opportunities.
What do former military members, veterans provide in terms of the experience and what the benefit that they are giving the workplace?
I think there's a host of skills that people talk about, soft skills and hard technical skills, and certainly they bring both. But more than anything, I think what stands out is a little maturity, a little experience, and focus on a mission. So the ability to show up on time, ready to do what needs to be done, to contribute to the team, to follow tasks, and ensure that they bring that experience forward in a leadership mode as well. That contributes in a lot of ways to success.
With the 50/50 raffle, I got to ask, what's the money going to go to?
Well, it's going to go to sustaining our mission. And so as a nonprofit, of course, we're a tax-advantaged business, but we're still a business, and we got people to pay. So our team is 20 strong now. It's doubled in the last 3 years, and we're really excited about the increase in our mission. Fully 20% of our team is based here in New Orleans, and so a lot of our impact is here. That team has helped to place over 1,200 veterans all time, and so that money will go back into the programming, the tools, and the salary for our staff to do more.
Yeah, with the growth that you've seen in staff, I mean, what does that say to you about what you guys are doing and how you are benefiting so many people?
That's a really sharp question. One of the things that was attractive to me when I found out about Next Op was I had personally gone through that transition after 25 years in the Navy myself, but I was a captain, senior officer in the Navy, helicopter pilot, had a master's degree in business. And so for me, it looked on surface like transition should have been easy. I look at a lot of the troops that I've worked with over the years, to include my grandfathers who served in the Navy from World War II to Vietnam, and that transition is not easy. And enlisted service members in particular make up 85% of the military. So you're talking about $175,000 a year coming out of service. Then you got your reserve and your guards who get trained up, but often don't have active tasks to do, so they need jobs as well. And then you've got a 7 or 8 million that are in the post 9/11 generation in the workforce. So it's really an opportunity to engage them, and we do it in a unique way because we're the only organization that I know of that focuses purely on enlisted. So even though this year I'm really proud to say we're going to surpass 1,000 placements for the first time ever in a year, it's still a drop in the bucket for what can be done. So there's a lot more runway to grow this.
How can people reach you guys and find the services?
For the easiest way is, you can find us through social media. A lot of our candidates and employers come to us word of mouth, but you can go to our website, which is nextopvets.org. And then just in the near term, because we're excited about this raffle, you can always go to Saints5050raffle.com, buy your ticket if you're in Louisiana, and then of course, Next Stop will benefit from that, but it's an opportunity to win some money out of the raffle pot as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's audio podcast here, but you are wearing a Saints shirt. So we got to talk about that as well. I guess you're a Saints fan.
Who dat?
How long and what do you like about supporting the Saints?
Well, I love New Orleans and the culture here. My grandfather was enlisted. He was the tower chief at Belle Chase when I was a kid, and he retired in the early 70s. So I started coming here in the early 70s from East Texas and just was drawn to the feeling and the vibe and the culture and the warmth of the society and the people around here. And so as a little kid, it was either the Cowboys or the Saints. And there was something magical about the Saints with Archie Manning at that time. And I know the record didn't necessarily support that, but I just latched onto them early in life.
Yeah, there have been some fun games along the way, I'm sure.
Absolutely. You know, my kids absolutely adore Drew Brees and everything that he did for the team and the city.
Yeah. You have ties to New Orleans, even though this is a company that is nationwide, based in Houston. What do you like about being able to come back here and spend a little time in the city?
Well, again, it's an opportunity to come back and spend time in a city that I love and experience the culture, the events, the food, and that sort of thing. But I was also very lucky to be assigned here when I was in the Navy for 1 year. I was attached to Shell Oil Company, and they put me into the RTC program at Tulane administratively. And so my son at the time was going to Holy Name, and he was a fourth grader and fell in love with the city like I had. And now he's a senior at Tulane and Navy ROTC and about to go on to become a Navy pilot. So the combination of having a team here in a city that I love and my son here gives me lots of great opportunities to come back and contribute. It's a passion for me, both the mission that we have, but also trying to help people achieve economic success and contribute back to the society.
Yeah, is he going to be a helicopter pilot too?
That's what he wants to do. He's had the opportunity to go out on ships, and he did an aviation cruise out in Washington State with a patrol squadron. They fly big jets, and he said, I think I want to go to sea, and helicopters seem like the coolest way to do that. So we'll see how it works out for him.
Yeah, I'm sure you have a lot of stories from that time as well.
I could probably bore you with them.
Well, thank you so much for joining me, and look forward to the weekend and the raffle and hopefully all of the money that is raised to benefit Next Stop.
I'm very excited about it. So if you want to see me ring the bell, come on out to Champion Square before the game. But otherwise, you'll see us dancing around with our QR codes, and hopefully people get excited and buy some tickets and contribute to our cause.
Definitely. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You can support Next Stop by purchasing those 50/50 raffle tickets at the game or at saints5050raffle.com. Let's bring in our Senior Management of Youth Football Development, Austin Pasco, who sits down with this week's Coach of the Week, Brian Glover. Coach Glover is in his first season as head coach for Estroma. He resigned from East Jefferson High School in January 2025, led East Jefferson to a district championship in 2024, which was the school's first title in a decade. Here's Austin and Coach Glover.
All right, so this is Coach AP. We are sitting here at Estroma High School, home of the Indians, with head coach Brian Glover. Coach, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Austin. How about yourself?
Oh, man, this is awesome. So, look, we actually got to surprise you on being the New Orleans Saints Coach of the Week. What does that mean to you?
Man, it means a lot, man, especially coming from the Saints, coming from that organization, just that department that works, with the youth, with the LHSAA. I've been knowing you guys for a long time and seeing that the work that y'all put in and the recognition that y'all try to give to high schools and uplifting them. And so it's special for me because I know the work that y'all put into it.
I know I had to tell a little fib to try and let me come up here and do this for you, saying that we're going to highlight just the team, but it was an honor for you. But I mean, the one thing that we do want to know is, like, how did you start your coaching journey?
Oh, man, it started right out of when I got out of high school and was playing college baseball, and I knew that I wasn't going to go pro, but I knew that I wanted to stay in the game and I wanted to coach. So I mean, as a young man, I knew that I wanted to coach because I know that those were the guys that influenced me throughout my life, and I wanted to do the same for other young men.
And you've definitely had, like, a unique coaching journey, too, because, I mean, like, yeah, you're here in Estroma. Last year you're at East Jefferson. Before that, Grace King. Before that, shut down. Talk about a little bit, like, what was that transition from those three programs at least?
Man, it to be honest, it was weird because I wasn't supposed to be at Grace King. I was at Grace King just to hide out for a year or so, just to relax, because coaching had kind of took its toll on me health-wise and stress-wise, and I wanted to take a year off, and I ended up at Grace King just as a teacher, but I ended up knowing the coach that was there, so he asked me to help him, and I did, and then COVID came, and he left, and so they needed a coach, and I decided, okay, well, I'm back in it. So, but I realized once I got back in it at Grace King, man, it was a great place. I hate that the school had got shut down. So when that happened, East Jeff happened to have a spot open at the same time, which was rare because that was like in May. So was able to interview and get that job and had a great time at East Jeff. But then the opportunity came for me to get a little bit closer to home because I'd been in the New Orleans area for a while, and it gave me a chance to get closer to home and get closer to my roots. And so that's why I looked at the opportunity here at Extrema.
And I'll tell you what, man, coming in here, like talking about your journey and everything like that, coming into here at Extrema and seeing that you only got 22 guys on your team, basically, and you're playing Ironman football, and you're sitting at 5-2. Like, talk to me a little bit. Like, talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, man, it was something that we noticed when we got here and in the spring, seeing the numbers that we had and knowing that, okay, it's going to be a journey. So we made sure that the kids understood what it meant to have to play Ironman football, and the commitment that it was going to take to play. We had to make a commitment to our bodies, make a commitment to being in shape, which they did. They all fell in, and they bought into the program and bought into what we were doing, and they did a great job of committing to the physical aspect of it, and so it's just been great. The kids just believe in themselves. We have to make sure we can't be selfish. We have to make sure that everybody's on the understanding that we have to be willing to do whatever it takes to get a victory, and that's what the kids have committed to.
And how you said that, getting everything bought in, everyone just falling in to get a victory and everything like that. Talk to me a little bit, like, what is your coaching philosophy for this team this year? A little bit more, like, is there a certain slogan you go by, or is there like something that you guys, you clear heart, clear eyes, full hearts? Like, what is that like philosophy you got with these kids? Well,
with our philosophy, every week every day we strive to make sure that today is better than yesterday. That's always our motto. Take it one day at a time. Make sure the next day is better than the day we had. Sometimes we have setbacks because that's life, but we try to make sure if we do have a setback, we flush it, and if God gives us the ability to wake up the next day, we got an opportunity to get it right. And that's basically been our philosophy. We always just focus on us. We don't focus on too much on the opponent or whatever. We focus on us and making sure that we are doing everything that we can to be successful, and we're always in search of our A game. And as long as we're in search of our A game, we can kind of limit the distractions.
And talking about limiting those distractions, I mean, just not on the field, but off the field as well. Like, coaches have that philosophy, like, I got to be Unc, or I got to be like that other kind of father figure to some of these kids, or, just somebody in their lives. Like, how do you do that? Because I know, like, walking in here, I heard that you had to go pick up a kid this morning to bring him to school. Like, what does that mean? And, like, how do you set the tone for them as just young men, or just, being the next person in life?
Well, that is the main thing that we talk about. What I did with my coaching staff when we first got here, I said, look, these kids, talent is not going to be an issue. Them being able to play football is not going to be a problem because they can do that. We have to make sure we take care of all the other stuff around them and all the other stuff that's involved in their lives. This is a tough neighborhood. These kids come from a tough environment. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no way to get around it. So we have to make sure that we show up in their lives where they may, have deficiencies. We try to make sure that we're there to fill in the gaps, but we also get them to understand to understand what integrity means, understand what accountability means, to get them to understand that there's going to come a point where you're not going to ride that yellow school bus anymore, and you're not going to be able to come here anymore. You're going to be out in the real world, trying to make sure that we give them the foundation to be strong, productive young men when they get out into society.
No, that's a great answer right there, and that's also what you're doing, right? Like, sports is everything like that, because not only are you building athletes on the field, but you're also building human beings off the field as well, and the hard work and dedication that you definitely have been putting in. I mean, like I said, seeing this workout, seeing what they're about to go do on the field for week 8, like, that's crazy, and everything that goes on in that. But Coach, man, what's left for the Ostroma Indians the rest of this season?
Hey, still in search we're in search of our A game. Every week we're trying to make sure that we do the best job that we can every week. And, once the playoffs start, you let the chips fall where they may. Every year our goal is to, of course, win a championship. Everybody wants to be the last man standing, and we work to be a champion. We work like a champion, we prepare like a champion, and the results are going to be what they are. But we make sure that we do everything that we can to be as successful as we can.
No, I love that answer, and we're looking forward to you hopefully making a deep run in the playoffs, and who knows, maybe even showing up in the Superdome come December. But look, that's going to do it for Coach AP with Brian Glover here at Ostroma High as our Coach of the Week this week. Very appreciate it, Coach.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
That does it for this week's episode. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget, we'll get you set for the game Sunday with our pregame show, 11 a.m. on NewOrleansSaints.com. Scott Shanley and I will break down the latest ahead of the game, and then be back with you to break it all down after the Saints take on the Bucs. See you Sunday, and go Saints.
Thanks for listening to the New Orleans Saints podcast presented by Rouse's Markets. Join us 3 times per week on NewOrleansSaints.com, the Saints mobile app, or you can download the podcast on iTunes. We'll see you next time, right here on the New Orleans Saints podcast, presented by Rouse's Markets.